All right, so about 2 years ago, these tier list videos started popping up all over YouTube. And I gotta tell you, I found them very interesting. I probably watched too many to count. After 2 years, I thought it was time to make one and share it with you. If you've never seen one of these videos, a tier list is a list where you grade things, and it could be anything. It started off in the gaming community, different characters had different powers and they were grading them. And then I saw some about food, saw a bunch about sports teams. I even saw one done about amendments to the Constitution and how important they were. That was oddly very interesting. This is how it works. You take something, in our case today, state capitals, and then you grade them. Just like a school grade system, A through F. But there's an S in there too, and that stands for special, like it's the only one, the very best, lands in the S spot. It's top dog, numero uno, cock of the walk, baby. You get it. Or should I quote Christopher Walken again? Anyway, as we go through them, we grade them and we put them in whatever slot they belong, and that's your video. I'll explain why I graded each state capital as we go through the list. Keep in mind, this is just my opinion. I would love to hear your opinion. Leave me a comment and let me know what you think should have been the top dog, or what one you think I got wrong. Here we go. Number 1, Montgomery, Alabama. Montgomery, Alabama, it's not the best place. Here's a fun fact about it. Montgomery was the capital of the Confederate States of America during the American Civil War. This is not a great state capital. The only decent stats they have is it's cheap and houses are affordable, and normally that's an indication the rest of the stats suck. I don't think it's the absolute worst, so it's getting a D. Number 2, Juneau, Alaska. Interesting fact about Juneau, it's the only state capital in the United States that's not accessible by road. Juneau isn't a bad place to live. It's a little expensive and they got a little crime. Nothing compared to a lot of other cities, but they do have some crime. They don't have many murders. I think a lot of their crime, their violent crime at least, is related to alcohol. You know, bar fights, things of that nature. I'd probably give them a B, but they get some pretty harsh winter and that can be a little rough on your emotional well-being. So we're giving Juneau a C. Number 3, Phoenix, Arizona. Phoenix is a very unique state capital. Number 1, it is the absolute hottest state capital we have. Its nickname is the Valley of the Sun, and they're the most populous state capital in the nation. And it's not even close compared to the next in line. They're like 1 million over the next most populous city. Phoenix does have some crime. Most of their stats are pretty good. Past crime, I mean, their housing's not expensive. Their cost of living's pretty decent for a large city. Their traffic isn't horrible like San Francisco, Los Angeles, Boston. It's bad, but nothing compared to other major cities. I'm gonna put my own personal bias aside because I hate hot weather, and I'm gonna grade Phoenix as a B. Number 4, Little Rock, Arkansas. Yeah, there's not much you could say that's good about Little Rock, Arkansas. Little Rock is home to the Central High School National Historic Site, a significant location for the civil rights movement, so that's kind of cool. And that's where the positive things end. This is another place that has high crime, but its cost of living is great and their housing's pretty cheap. These people knock it out of the park when it comes to violent crime. It's actually 432% higher than the national average. That is why Little Rock, Arkansas gets an F. Number 5, Sacramento, California. Sacramento, yeah, it's a pretty interesting place. Here's a fun fact about them. Sacramento became the state capital in 1854 after a fire destroyed the original state capital in San Jose. But there's like 5 other state capitals, including San Francisco and Monterey. And Sacramento's been the state capital twice. San Francisco took over for 1 year, then it went back to Sacramento. But Sacramento's got a lot of homeless problems. They got some crime. My own personal opinion, last time I was there, it was dirty. It wasn't a good look for a state capital. Their housing is reasonable for California, I should say. For Iowa, it's terribly expensive. Their crime is there, but it's nothing compared to some of the other capital cities on this list. They also have great hospitals and great weather. We're gonna give Sacramento, California a C. Number 6, Denver, Colorado. I like Denver. I know a lot of people want to talk bad about Denver, but I've been a big fan for a while. Fun fact about Denver, it's considered one of the most walkable downtowns in the nation. It also has one of the largest city park systems. That being said, Denver's expensive, their cost of living is pretty high, but their housing isn't terrible. And yes, I know people are going to say, no, their housing's getting worse. Yes, that could be said for almost every city in the United States, not just Denver. But it's not a bad place to live once you get past the homeless situation and the crime. Schools and hospitals are decent. Plenty of things to do in the area. We're going to give Denver, Colorado a B. Number 7, Hartford, Connecticut. Hartford, Connecticut almost gets a bad grade because they have a horrible reputation. But really, it's not as bad a city as people make it sound. The problem is they're up against a lot of other New England states and their major cities, which are all pretty decent. They got a little bit of crime. They're not terribly expensive in housing or cost of living. They got some serious poverty issues, and that's probably their biggest problem, I think. You can always tell there's a lot of poverty going on when their property crime is much higher than their violent crime, which is exactly what's happening in Hartford. Interesting fact, Hartford, Connecticut is often referred to as the insurance capital of the world due to its historic ties to the insurance industry. But the weather, the property crime, it's just kind of a dirty city. Hartford, Connecticut's getting a D. Number 8, Dover, Delaware. Delaware in general isn't a bad place once you get outside of Wilmington. It's actually a really beautiful state with tons of rural areas and beautiful beaches. Dover is far enough from Wilmington where it really doesn't affect the quality of life. It's not a really big city, it does have a military base there, and the median age is pretty young. It's 29 years old. Cost of living ain't bad, houses ain't bad, crime's there but not horrible. I'm gonna give Dover a B. Number 9, Tallahassee, Florida. I think Tallahassee gets a pretty bad rep. This is another one of those places where they have some violent crime, but not a lot of murders. It's also a college town, so the smart money says it's just going to be a lot of alcohol-related violence. If you read the comment section, someone about every single place we talk about is going to bring out how dangerous it is and the crime's through the roof. And then they always say something like, you don't know because you don't live here. Actually, you don't know because you live there is the real situation. You see something and you're biased. This is your hometown or whatever, you hear about the violence, you think it's terribly violent. We're not comparing these cities against perfection. We're comparing them against other cities. And compared to a lot of other cities, Tallahassee ain't that bad. Fun fact about Tallahassee, it is the only state capital that has a border with a different state, Georgia. That's what they say, but really it's the metro area. The actual town of Tallahassee is a few miles away from the border. We're gonna give Tallahassee a C. Number 10, Atlanta, Georgia. This one's kind of interesting. Atlanta is on the verge of becoming a major city that's pretty much known to everyone, like New York, Los Angeles, San Francisco, Tokyo, London, Chicago, major cities that are known worldwide. Atlanta has a few areas that have some crime problems, but overall, the city is pretty safe. Their crime rate's 24% lower than the national average. Their violent crime is the same. Interesting fact about Atlanta, Atlanta is known for being a major center of the civil rights movement and the birthplace of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. I'm gonna give Atlanta an A. Number 11, Honolulu, Hawaii. By the way, if you ever want to drive people crazy, call it Honolulu. I've done that before in videos just to see if anyone would catch it. They made a lot of comments, but I got a lot of angry emails along with that one. Fun fact about Honolulu, Honolulu is one of the most remote major cities in the world and is located on the island of Oahu. A lot of people will bring up, well, you can't drive to this state capital either, like Juneau. Well, actually, Juneau's a little different. You can't really drive to any other cities outside the Juneau area. Once you get past tourists and a high cost of living, Honolulu's not a bad place to live. Got the ocean right there, decent weather. I'm gonna give Honolulu an A. Number 12, Boise, Idaho. Boise is a great place to live, to tell you the truth, but if you ever want to drive people crazy, call it Boise. That'll score you a lot of comments on your YouTube video. Fun fact, Boise's known as the City of Trees. That's because it's surrounded by 4.2 million acres of trees, or forests, whatever you want to say. Boise has great stats across the board. We're gonna give Boise a B. Number 13, Springfield, Illinois. Springfield, Illinois is well away from Chicago, right in the middle of the state. But like Chicago, they got some serious crime issues. But it's dirt cheap to live here and the houses are almost free. Not that close, but it's low. So what have we learned? If everything's cheap and the crime's high, the place kind of blows. Fun fact, Springfield is the hometown of Abraham Lincoln, which is rich in history related to the 16th president of the United States. Lincoln can't save them. They're getting an F. Number 14, Indianapolis, Indiana. Indianapolis is a city that has a lot of potential, but I don't think it's ever lived up to it. It's got the Indianapolis 500, they got the Colts. Great place to be if you're into sports or being shot at. Yeah, their crime rate's pretty high and their violent crime rate's kind of rough. The fun fact about them is they have the Indianapolis 500, one of the most prestigious car races in the world. I'm giving them a D. Number 15, Des Moines, Iowa. If boring was a stat, they'd excel in it. Des Moines is known as one of the most boring cities in the country, and it's definitely the most boring state capital in the country. Des Moines is known for its role in the Iowa caucus, the first major event in the U.S. presidential election cycle. Des Moines has great stats other than crime. Their crime's been on the rise probably the last handful of years, probably last decade, but they got a lot of other good things going for them, so I'm giving them a C. Number 16, Topeka, Kansas. Topeka, Kansas has two problems: a high crime rate, and most people have really never heard of the place. Interesting fact, Topeka, Kansas was the site of the historic Brown v. Board of Education Supreme Court case that led to the desegregation of schools. That's nice, they're getting a D. Number 17, Frankfort, Kentucky. Their Capitol building is kind of unique. They couldn't come up with their own plan, so they just copied the one from the United States Capitol building in Washington, D.C. Interesting fact, this is where Daniel Boone is buried, right across the river from the state capitol. It's really strange about Frankfort, Kentucky, as I do this for a living. I study maps of the United States, but I always forget Frankfort's the state capital. For some reason, it's stuck in my head, I think it's Lexington. That being said, Frankfort's a very forgettable city. It's affordable, it doesn't have much crime, there isn't much to do, and their healthcare gets bad grades. I'm giving them a C. Number 18, Baton Rouge, Louisiana. This is a historic city. This is a historic and dangerous city. It's also one of those cities I keep getting emails from about bad politicians there. I don't know what's going on there, but these people in Baton Rouge, and actually a couple other places in Louisiana, have an axe to grind with some dude named Clay. I don't even know who he is, but a lot of people think he's kind of dumb. There is nothing beyond the history of this city that is worth talking about. They're getting an F. Number 19, Augusta, Maine. Augusta is really not that bad of a city, but by Maine standards, it is. Maine has no crime almost anywhere in the state. Augusta has some crime. Their violent crime rate is 20% below the national average. Their property crime rate is 50% above. That has something to do with their employment numbers, I'm sure. Overall, this is a pretty good city. People just keep breaking into cars. That's their big crime. Fun fact, Augusta is the easternmost state capital in the U.S., and they're getting a B. Number 20, Annapolis, Maryland. Annapolis actually served as a temporary capital of the United States from 1783 to 1784. That's your fun fact. Annapolis is where you'll find the United States Naval Academy. Annapolis is a really nice place to live, good stats. I'm giving them a B. Number 21, Boston, Massachusetts. If you don't know, Boston is one of the oldest cities in the United States, and it played a major role in the American Revolution. That's for someone that's not from this country just watching this video. If you're from this country, you should know all that. Boston's historic. Boston is terribly expensive. It's overcrowded. Their traffic is one of the worst in the nation. They're getting a D. 22, Lansing, Michigan. This is an interesting fact about Lansing. Lansing is the only state capital that is not also the county seat of its respective county. Lansing's not that bad of a city when you compare it to some of the other cities they got going on in Michigan. It's not the greatest city. Their stats aren't perfect. We're giving them a C because they got some crime and they got some unemployment issues. But other than that, the stats are pretty good. 23, St. Paul, Minnesota. Years ago, this one kind of, I don't know, I always thought it was Minneapolis for some reason. Then someone corrected me and said, no, it's St. Paul. I was like, how did I not know that? Kind of like Frankfort. Got that one confused all the time. They're right next to each other. Here's your fun fact. St. Paul is part of the Twin City metropolitan area along with Minneapolis, which is its more populous neighbor. Minneapolis is just bigger. You'd think that would, anyway, moving on. St. Paul's crime's getting up there. Both violent crime and overall crime, property crime are all just a little over 100% above the national average. Everything else, cost of living, housing, it's all cheap. Their schools are okay. Healthcare is okay. But the winter and the crime, they're getting a C. Almost got a D, but we're giving them C. Number 24, Jackson, Mississippi. Jackson, Mississippi is named after Andrew Jackson, the 7th president of the United States. That's in case anyone got it confused with Michael Jackson. I'm going to cut to the chase. Jackson, Mississippi is the most violent state capital we have in the Union. They're getting an F. If there's anything lower, they'd get that too. 25, Jefferson City, Missouri, named after Archie Bunker's next door neighbor. Here's the fun fact. Jefferson City is located on the Missouri River and is known for its historic architecture. It's actually a beautiful city. Their stats are all A's. I mean, the only thing that's below an A is a C+ for crime. So we're giving Jefferson City an A. Number 26, Helena, Montana. Helena is a pretty nice place. I love their downtown. It's very well landscaped, I guess you could say. A lot of old buildings, beautiful brick buildings. Got a lot of art galleries that seem to be focused on buffalo paintings. Don't know what that's all about. Interesting fact, Helena was found as a gold camp during the Montana Gold Rush of 1860. Or I should say the 1860s. It wasn't like just 1 year. I like Helena. It's fairly safe. Stats are good. I'm going to give it a B. 27, Lincoln, Nebraska. Lincoln, Nebraska is a pretty cool little town. I mean, it's not really a town. It's not really little. It's got 289,000 residents, I believe. But it is home to the University of Nebraska. And it's not that bad of a place to live. I'm going to give them a B. 28, Carson City, Nevada. Most people think Las Vegas is the capital of Nevada. It is not. I've also heard people think it's Reno. No, it's a very unknown Carson City. Interesting fact, it's one of the smallest state capitals by population, and that's why most people have never heard of it. It is close to Lake Tahoe, which is great. Their stats are not good. I've never really liked this city. I'm going to give it a D. 29, Concord, New Hampshire. Back up to New England we go. Interesting fact, Concord is home to the New Hampshire State House, which is the oldest capital in which the legislature meets in its original chambers. Like most cities in New England, the stats are outstanding here. Very little crime, somewhat affordable, decent people, beautiful architecture, beautiful land. I'm giving them an A. Number 30, Trenton, New Jersey. Yeah, Trenton sucks. Trenton played a pivotal role in the American Revolutionary War and was briefly the capital of the United States in 1784. And that was the last feather in the cap of Trenton, New Jersey. The stats for Trenton, New Jersey aren't great. Their crime is pretty high. Actually, it's kind of odd. Their violent crime rate is 201% above the national average, but their total crime rate is only 39% above, and their property crime is only 7% above. These people are just into hurting each other. I'm giving Trenton an F. 31, Santa Fe, New Mexico. Santa Fe is a beautiful city, and I know a lot of people don't consider anything in the desert or the mountain desert or whatever beautiful, but the old adobe home styles they have there and the architecture, it's an amazing city filled with art galleries, and it's just got that whole artistic vibe going on there. I love the place. Interesting fact, Santa Fe is the oldest state capital in the United States, founded in 1610 by Spanish colonists. The stats aren't bad at all. I'm giving Santa Fe a B. 32, Albany, New York. Albany is one of the oldest continually inhabited European settlements in the United States. That's your interesting fact. Albany's stats aren't great, but they're not terrible either. They're kind of middle of the road with some crime. Thing I don't like about Albany, I was there in the worst snowstorm I've ever been in. They do have the Hudson River flowing right by town, and they're not too far away from Troy, New York, which for some frickin' reason I really like. And Troy's not that great of a place. I've just had some good times there. I'm giving Albany a D. They almost got a C though, I think. I'm on the fence on that one. 33, Raleigh, North Carolina. Interesting fact, Raleigh is known as the city of oaks due to its many oak trees, which line the streets and parks. Yeah, they got a lot of trees there. Raleigh's not a bad place to live. Excellent health care, decent crime rate. I'm giving them a B. 34, Bismarck, North Dakota. Interesting fact, they named Bismarck after Otto von Bismarck, the first chancellor of the German Empire. Seems odd to name it after someone like that. Bismarck's a little boring. I have friends from there that just couldn't wait to get out of there. They turned 18 and left. But their stats aren't that bad. I'm going to give them a C. 35, Columbus, Ohio. Fun fact about Columbus, it's the largest city in Ohio and serves as the state's economic and cultural hub. That's what they say. Most people get that wrong. They think Cleveland or Cincinnati, because they're better known, will be the most populous city. It's not. Cleveland only has, in 2020 I should say, only has about 372,000, Cincinnati 309,000, Toledo 270, Columbus has over 900,000. All of Columbus's stats are decent. Their crime rate, they do get an F. It's only like 50% above the national average, so that's not terrible. They're getting a B. Number 36, Oklahoma City, Oklahoma. Oklahoma City was settled during the land run of 1889 and quickly grew to become the state's capital. I'm not a fan, but their stats aren't terrible. They got a little crime just like every major city, but everything else is average or a little above average. I'm giving them a C. 37, Salem, Oregon. Salem's not great. I mean, it's better than Portland, but it's just not great. Salem was originally intended to be the city of peace and was selected as Oregon state capital in 1851. It's a weird state capitol building. It looks like a prison. I kid you not. In my opinion, it's the ugliest state capitol building we have in this nation. They got a serious homeless situation. Their other stats aren't terrible. Crime, of course, isn't great. That usually comes with a bunch of people living on the streets, sadly. They're getting a D. Side note, whenever I give the stats about Oregon that are negative stats, I get comments about, wow, that must have stung, Oregon's last place. I don't care. It's a state. I live in a city. Not my family members. I just want to ask people, why do you think that matters? Why does it matter to you? It's not like I designed and built the city myself and you're dissing my work. It's like, it was here before I got here. Everyone's just got to take sides. It's weird. 38, Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. I like Harrisburg. Interesting fact, it is located on the Susquehanna River, which it's been a couple years since I've said that, but I think I got it right. And it played a significant role in the American Civil War. This place has great stats other than violent crime. They have low murder rate. They have a property crime rate that is actually better than the national average. It's just their violent crime and not hardly any murders, but not a lot of murders. So again, it's normally a lot of drinking and fighting and doing stupid stuff like that. So that's not terrible. Harrisburg is a beautiful town, and I'm giving them an A. 39, Providence, Rhode Island. Interesting fact about them, it's the smallest state, and Providence takes up about 75% of the state. For being such a small city, they have pretty good colleges, good sized ones. Brown University, which is a Ivy League school, Johnson and Wales University, Providence College, Rhode Island College, which happens to be the state's oldest public college, and Rhode Island School of Design. So here's the thing, all of their stats are below average except for their healthcare. They're getting a D. Number 40, Columbia, South Carolina. Interesting fact, Columbia is home to the University of South Carolina and has a strong military presence. They do. South Carolina is big in the military. They got Fort Jackson basically in town. Then not too far away, you got like Shaw Air Force Base. I know there's some other ones around there. At least they're all smaller. Jackson's the big one. Other than a high crime rate and some employment issues, Columbia's not that bad. They're getting a C. 41, Pierre, South Dakota. Yes, you look at the word, you want to call it Pierre, but it is Pierre. Pierre is the second smallest state capital by population in the United States. It's only got 14,000 people. The entire city could invite 4 friends each to a Vikings game in Minneapolis and still have plenty of seats. One of the biggest problems Pierre has is there's not a lot to do. Everything else is kind of middle of the road. Crime isn't terrible, employment numbers are good. I almost want to give them a C, but I'm going to give them a B. 42, Nashville, Tennessee. One of the best things about Nashville is it's not Memphis. Memphis sucks. Nashville isn't terrible. Interesting fact, Nashville is often referred to as Music City due to its significant role in the country music industry. And that leads into one of its problems for people that live there. If you live in Nashville, sometimes it kind of sucks because there's a lot of tourists downtown. Their stats aren't great. They don't have great schools. They got some crime. In some areas, they got some pretty serious crime. Nashville's getting a D. 43, Austin, Texas. I was just in Austin 2 years ago when I went to San Antonio and then I went over to Austin. I like Austin. It's a very interesting city. It's got a little too much homeless. More than I would expect, I should say, for Texas. Not up to California or Oregon levels, but they got some. Interesting fact, Austin is another city known for its vibrant music scene. It's also got a decent technology industry going on there, and it's one of the state capitals that has a good-sized population. They almost got 1 million residents. I'm giving Austin a C. 44, Salt Lake City, Utah. Salt Lake City's like the only real place in Utah that's got some decent crime. It's kind of up there these days. Interesting fact, Salt Lake City is the headquarters of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, or LDS Church. I'm not a fan of Salt Lake City. They got crime issues. Their schools are decent. They're not the best. I just find the place boring, but they're getting a C. 45, Montpelier, Vermont. Interesting fact, Montpelier is the smallest state capital by population in the United States. They have less than 8,000 residents. Montpelier is beautiful, the people are decent, they got a nice river going through town, and they got this really cool thing that I think is still in place. I looked it up and I couldn't find any updates, but they don't let like chain restaurants come into Montpelier. You got to go outside of town for that. And I think they're pretty strict on any kind of chain store. They got a Walgreens and gas stations and things like that, but I think they limit those in a big way, which I think is incredible. Montpelier gets the S. It is the special one. It is the top dog. In my opinion, It is the best state capital in the country. 46, Richmond, Virginia. All I could think about is that song, Richmond, north of Richmond. That song has caused some controversy recently. Republicans thought they were talking about the Democrats, and then the guy came out and said, no, I'm talking about all you politicians, not just one side. If you haven't heard that, look it up. Richmond, north of Richmond. It's by a guy named Oliver Anthony. Richmond, Virginia is not a bad place to live. They've got all the right stats in all the right places. Their unemployment numbers and their crime aren't great, but they're not bad. They're getting an A. 47, Olympia, Washington. Olympia is south of Seattle and Tacoma. It's kind of out there. I don't know if they consider it part of the Seattle metro area. They got a little farmland between them and Tacoma, so maybe not. I should look it up, but I don't feel like it. Our interesting fact, Olympia is known for its natural beauty, the Puget Sound, and the Olympic Mountains nearby. It is a beautiful town. First time I went there was in the mid-'80s, and it wasn't. It's gotten better since then. Like every other major city in the United States, Olympia has some crime issues. Not terrible, but they got some crime issues. Everything else is decent. They're getting a B. Barely. They almost got a C. 48, Charleston, West Virginia. Yeah, West Virginia's got a bad rap, I know, and people are going to make comments. I like Charleston. Charleston's a fun place. Good people. I have some friends there. The only radio station I listen to these days is WTSQ, which is out of Charleston. Get a chance, you can listen to it on your computer. My friend Maya runs the morning show, and my friend Josh runs the afternoon show. Interesting fact, Charleston, West Virginia has a very shiny golden dome on top of it. It's fun, it's kind of artsy. I like Charleston. Got a little crime, not terrible. They're getting a B. 49, Madison, Wisconsin. Yeah, this is another place I really love. I love Madison, always have. Been there several times in my life. Interesting fact, Madison is home to the University of Wisconsin-Madison, and it has a strong focus on education and research. This whole area does. They're not expensive, either houses or their cost of living. Their crime isn't horrible. Healthcare is great. They're getting an A. All right, before we get to number 50, which is Wyoming, if you're looking for a new place to live, there's a link for Home and Money down below. They can get you in touch with a real estate agent wherever you want to go in the country. All right, on to number 50. And number 50, Cheyenne, Wyoming. If you ever want to have a good time, Cheyenne, Wyoming has the Cheyenne Frontier Days, one of the largest rodeo events in the world. And it's not just the rodeo. It's a big, giant festival, party, whatever you want to call it. Wyoming is filled with good people. Cheyenne is a great city. Their stats are good. They got very little crime, affordable. It is not a bad place to live. They are getting an A. All right, that's today's video. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Hope you got some information out of it. Now go out, have a great day, be nice to each other.